All right, so before we get into bouncing some balls here, let's talk a little bit. You okay? We're professionals here. I thought we could, you know? So, Sean, before we get into bouncing these balls around here, let's talk a little bit about rubber compounds, what they mean to riders out on the trail, and how you guys test and develop them.
Some of our product managers, engineers, and stuff would argue that the compound is the most important aspect beyond the casing, more important than any tread pattern you ever put on. So compounds are a major portion of the tire design, how it's going to perform.
And each of these little balls here have different colors on them. Your tires also have different colored stripes on them. Can you walk us through what the stripes mean and what the different compounds are?
The stripes do a couple different things on our tires. One, it indicates what compound we use, but also the stripe always goes on the rotor side or brake side of your wheel when setting it up, so it's also an indicator of to get the tread pattern rotating the correct direction. With the compounds, we have 4 different Addix compounds in our high-end mountain bike tires. And those compounds are the Addix Race, Addix Speed Grip, Addix Soft, and Addix Ultra Soft. The speed is obviously going to be the cross country, the fastest rolling. Speed Grip is going to be the one that it offers a little more grip, rolls nearly as fast, but offers a little bit more grip. So even if you're racing across country, but it's wet, you'll want to go to that more grippy compound. The soft and ultra soft is where you get into the enduro compound, and the ultra soft being the gravity compound. And so those are our 4 and kind of how we differentiate those.
Okay. I think everybody out there probably can understand the differences in grip, right? And I know we've experienced it in riding, everything from speed grip down to ultra soft tires. Something I think that would be really interesting to talk about maybe would be differences in rolling efficiency and lifespan. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have much in the way of studies or tests where you can kind of generate or give us some info on that?
We test all of these compounds. We have a standardized test to eliminate all variables. So we'll test same tire, same compound, same pressure on a smooth rolling drum, and you can look at the exact wattage it takes to rotate that tire. From the Addix Speed through Ultra Soft, you'll see a 30 to 50% difference depending on the tread pattern.
Okay. And I mean, that equates to a pretty big difference if you're talking about, I guess, either a long race, but how about like in a downhill event, like a short race run? What kind of differences are you seeing? Is that seconds, split seconds?
It's hard to quantify in a race run per
Right.
se, because you take cornering into effect and things like that. So if you use the ultra soft compound and it's more grippy and you can corner harder and carry more speed out of the corner versus just straight line rolling speed, mm-hmm. It's hard to quantify that. So right. We can simply talk about lab results.
Okay.
It does make a large difference though. Like if you say look at some of the speedway sections on World Cup downhill tracks these days and stuff, where riders are tucking, they're worried about tight clothing, aerodynamics, things like that. Rolling resistance still is a factor and something that we test and try and make every compound as fast rolling as possible while still getting the grip that you want.
Okay. And so about 30 to 50% difference in rolling resistance. How about lifespan?
Lifespan, you'll also see that with the faster rolling compounds, you get longer lifespan.
Okay.
I mean, simply when you go to softer rubber compounds, the morphing of blocks and things, they start to undercut and the lifespan will go down. Okay. You tend to also ride harder on those softer compounds.
Yeah, and in usually, I guess, more abrasive environments as well. So.
Exactly.
That's just, I guess, the downside for more grip, right?
Exactly.
So now, obviously, you work for Schwalbe. These are Schwalbe's labeled compounds. I think every major tire brand has, right? From their sticky to a more harder and efficient rubber compound. Back in the days, right, you could probably remember, like, especially with like Maxxis, durometers usually were called out in numbers, right? Like there's like a 42 and why have we gone away from that? And do these still have a durometer number tied with them? Can you talk about that?
So durometers, there's a few reasons why we've gone away from it.
Okay.
Most tires, high-end tires designed today, have multiple rubber compounds in them. So it might be 3-4 compounds where you have a faster rolling center, softer shoulder, and a base layer that's a faster rolling base layer. Okay. With those 2 additional. So that's 3 compounds. So to say one set durometer is simply, you can't say that any longer.
Right.
And so back in the day when we were talking about durometer numbers and stuff, those were single compound tires that were the exact same compound all the way through.
Okay.
That's just changed with technology.
Right.
And so the other reason why we don't use durometer, even if we have a single compound tire, is it changes with temperature.
Okay.
And so when it's hot, it's going to react differently than when it's ice cold out. And so it varies with temperature. And so you have to have a lab environment where everything's standardized to make those numbers actually comparable.
Interesting. And how big of a swing are you seeing? Like what sort of a temperature variance and how big of a change in compound do you see?
I mean, we can't really put percentages to it
Right.
in temperature range. I will say for our World Cup racers and stuff, when we do have cold weather compounds, so when you have those freak storms come in, they have an option to a cold weather compound that reacts better in cold weather.
Okay.
Whereas if it's a 90-degree day, stick with the standard stuff and it's going to be soft and tacky.
Okay. So the cold weather would essentially be like a super, super sticky, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you take, say, the speed compound in a cold weather day, it's going to be super hard and firm.
Okay.
But it'll make a drastic difference. And so, yeah, super, super sticky and doesn't react to the weather as much.
Gotcha. I guess another thing to discuss is, for a long time, like myself and other people, you'd walk up to a tire, right? And people would be like, oh, this is a new sticky DH or Enduro tire. And you'd go grab and twist a knob, right? And just to see how soft it is. Can you talk about what that hand test means and why it may or may not be actually a good way to judge a tire?
Right. So the hand tests, you're essentially testing the rebound of the rubber.
Right.
And that's just why we have these balls here too, to show you how the compounds, it's an easy visual to see how the compounds react differently.
Okay.
So we like to talk, when we talk durometer, we talk rebound resilience. So
Okay.
you can simply just see by dropping one of these how high it bounces back, and that will show you how soft that compound and how grippy it's going to be.
Okay.
And so we can sit here and do a quick demo for you to see. So we'll start with this, we'll go to the extremes.
Okay.
So we'll start with, this is the attic speed compound. It's hard to see in the video, but there's a little red dot on it to indicate the attic speed. And if I just drop it, you can see that it comes back roughly 30%.
She go.
But from the same height with the ultra soft compound,
Oh, wow.
you can see that it rebounds maybe a centimeter. And so that is, when you do that hand test, that's truly what you're feeling, is
Okay.
you can twist that knob and see how it slowly turns back. You're testing the rebound of the rubber compound.
Okay. And obviously each step in between is going to taper up, I guess, from one extreme to the other.
Exactly. So yeah, at the end of this, you can lift two, I'll lift two, and we can.
And let me feel that hard one there. Yeah, I mean, it's
hard from the finger
not
test
a
on this.
huge difference when you do that, but when you start to try to rub against, the friction between the two is definitely noticeable.
For sure.
I'm just going to drop these two side by side here. Any technique to this?
Nope.
Okay.
Just
I
let
know
'em go.
You're the expert ball handler here.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'd say the proof's in the pudding on that one. So obviously, a lot more grip, going to wear out a lot faster and roll a lot slower.
And roll a lot slower.
Now let's talk about actual manufacturing, the ingredients behind this. What do you do to make them feel so different and behave differently?
I'm not a chemist, so I can't take you in this deep dive of molecules and everything else.
Sure.
But when it comes to creating compounds, there's numerous ingredients that go in. It's not just raw latex rubber that comes out of the tree. There's fillers, there's oils, there's carbon black. All these things go into creating a tire compound. And as you tweak those mixtures of those ingredients, that's how you start to tailor the compounds.
Carbon black, that sounds scary.
Carbon black is the nastiest part of creating a tire. You essentially have a long tube and you shoot a flame down it and you capture the carbon that comes from it. And then you capture that carbon, it goes into the mixture, and that changes the how the compounds react, longevity, etc. We've recognized this for years, and it's something that we've been working on as a brand. 7 years ago, we started a tube recycling program in Europe that just started in North America this year, and so we're now recycling our tubes to where every tube you buy from Schwalbe is now 20% post-consumer recycled content that we've collected back, and it's a full circular economy there. And then just last year, we started the first tire recycling in all of the cycling industry.
Okay.
And it's currently only operating in Germany. We're looking to expand it and also expand to North America at some point. We collect old tires from any brand. They come back to our facility. They go through a recycling process. It's called pyrolysis. And through that process, we can actually, the end product is recovered carbon black. Okay. And so we no longer, and then this year we launched the first tire made with the recovered carbon black.
Okay.
It's not the exact carbon black that we normally get, and so we haven't been able to put it back into mountain bike tires, but it's making our marathon city tire at this point.
Okay, so for like urban, a less high performance application is a great spot for that.
Exactly, but it is the first step in this process, because out of the pyrolysis process of the recycling, you get all the textile fabrics that come out of tires, and those go to the textile industry to be reused. All the metals from wire beads go back into steel recycling. You get recovered crude oil and recovered carbon black.
Okay.
And so, and the recovered carbon black maintains any of the toxic chemicals that would come from the first process.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Sean, thanks for coming in and sharing. As always, if you guys have any questions, thoughts, we'd love to hear from you guys. Let us know if you want to go deeper into this recycling program. I think that's super cool, and it'll be awesome to see how that develops and evolves in the future. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you out on the trails.